Maria Martinez was born in 1887 and became probably one of the most well-known potters in Native American traditions. Her family was a long history of potters in their community. They lived north of Santa Fe in the Ildefonso area, and ever since she had been a child, she had been watching her family members make the pottery. She claims that she had never actually taught how to formally make the pottery pieces, but instead how she learned was learning by seeing, learning by watching others and then trying to replicate their actions, specifically her aunts. Her family made a lot of the pottery that we would think is traditional, which is the white with black and red colorings that were popular during the time that she lived. However, as a woman in her 20s and 30s, it became more popular for her people, as well as others, to use enamelware, tinware, things of that nature, and so pottery did start to die out. Maria was credited with her husband and her children as reviving pottery in the interest in Pueblo pottery. The pot that we are going to highlight today is one of the methods that she developed herself after a lot of trial and error. You'll notice it's entirely black. Some of the parts of it are shiny and some of it are more dull in nature. How do you make pottery black, especially when you don't have the modern tools and techniques that we have with kilns and modern slips and things of that nature? Well, this is how she did it. So she would form a pot using coils of clay. They did not use a pottery wheel. Coils of clay were formed together and then they were smoothed. And then, after the pots were dried, they would place them in a fire, but unlike the traditional method of firing them, after a period of time, they would actually suffocate the pottery, turning it a black color. Eventually, over time, they realized that if they put a glaze or a slip on top of the pots, it would turn it a more glossy black, especially after they would take different stones and rub them in different patterns and paint the figurines onto the pottery pieces. And so we have a link to a documentary that was made about her and her son and shows the method that they used in making the pottery pieces. Maria became an artist that was recognized on a world scale on her own. She became the recipient of several National Endowment for the Arts grants, and even though her tribe and her family had been making pots since the 1600s, it was really Maria and her family, her husband and her son, that elevated their craft and made it more mainstream, had the general public acknowledge it, and because of that, it's now in art museums all over the United States and all over the world. Lots of examples of her pieces are the traditional black and white pottery pieces. Oftentimes, very early on, she wouldn't even sign the pieces. When she was early in her experimenting phase of how to create this specific kind of pottery pieces, she didn't necessarily think that they were of good quality, and so she didn't sign them. And then over time, she began to take a lot more pride and acknowledgement in her pieces as she really developed and honed her craft. Maria Martinez died in 1980, and her son and family members continued afterwards to create the pottery that she became so well known for. The MacNider Museum has several examples of her pieces that when we're open again, you can come and see, and we'll show you some examples of those online here now.